Most of the indicted MAGA rioters are still awaiting trial for their alleged crimes at the Capitol, but other MAGA leaders are already planning a new Washington event.
I'm actually going to make some news on your show today. We have our next rally planned. It's in the middle of September, and what's going to define it is where it's going to take place. We're going back to the Capitol, right where it started, and we're going to push back against the phony narrative that there was an insurrection.
A MAGA leader talking to Steve Bannon there. It's a cycle of menacing plotting, followed by lies and denials about the plotting from the people who did it. Now, it is legal for Americans to go to peaceful marches at the Capitol, but this new push comes on Steve Bannon's show, the same place where he literally told his fans on the eve of the insurrection, quote, all hell's going to break loose tomorrow. What did he know? There are also signs that this is about more than criminal defendants denying wrongdoing, and it rather reflects a much wider loser mentality within the GOP mixed with authoritarianism. Let me explain. What we're seeing here in the blueprint is that many Republicans expect to lose key races in the future, including potentially presidential races. And as they brace for their expected electoral loss as losers, people who think they're losers, lost recently, are getting ready to lose again. So that's the loser part. They're also embracing Donald Trump's authoritarian bent. So they are losers who expect to lose and then are trying to find ways to plan to steal the elections that they would otherwise lose. It's both things together. So last time, a lot of the attacks on the 2020 results did look fringe, even to be clear in parts of the Republican Party. It was not as if everyone in the party was signing up to overthrow the election, although we saw how fast and furious the big lie spread. But if you think back to those key weeks after the loss of Donald Trump, it was Giuliani giving press conferences. There wasn't an obvious public path to actually getting a result changed through our system. And they didn't do that time. But now, whether you've heard about it or not, Republicans are already passing these partisan laws that open wider paths for politicians to interfere in elections and maybe overturn the voter's choice. A plan looking like it would only be used by Republicans in red states where they have the state control if they lost the presidential results in that state. One elections expert says this is a roadmap for a coup that would claim to be respectable, overriding democracy with neatly filed legal briefs instead of Capitol violence. This is real. This is all unfolding in public right now, and from legal experts to journalistic scoops, it's a thread many have been exploring, including our own colleague Chris Hayes, and in some coverage right here on The Beat. The signs are clear. It's time to be vigilant.
Donald Trump's failed coup was worse than we thought. It's an unnervingly plausible path to stealing the election. I frankly don't have the words to describe what a cataclysm this all would have been.
An unpunished, thwarted coup becomes a training exercise. And boy, are they training. Meanwhile, some of the most influential voices on the right, like Tucker Carlson, are using their platforms to go way farther than you'd ever expect someone who talks about law and order or America first, because they're leaning on foreign autocrats to normalize this stuff, to normalize election interference, to normalize the idea that maybe regular elections aren't as important as you were always told your whole life ever since the Founding Fathers. And Tucker hit a new low here, just fawning over Hungary's widely condemned autocratic leader.
You've got an election coming up in April. Are you worried that there will be international interference in your election in Hungary?
That will happen. We are not worried of that. We are prepared for that.
When the President of the United States describes you as a totalitarian thug, which is a very serious thing to say about somebody, I would note. I mean, that suggests that, why wouldn't the Biden State Department work to prevent you from being reelected?
You've got someone there who's defended all of the Ukrainian-style Trump interference, now throwing that at this administration with no evidence. The larger picture is even more disturbing because it's these new reports, as I mentioned, journalistic scoops like in the Times about how Trump got very far in trying to plot what experts called a coup, pushing the Justice Department to interfere in Georgia. We don't know if there were other states involved. We don't know the whole story.